Hi everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wondered why we get so heated when talking about politics, even when we're just thinking about politicians we don't like? Well, this new study dives deep into that feeling. What is the nature of affective polarization? The scientists here wanted to figure out what kind of feelings we have when we're what they call affectively polarized. Basically, this means how much we like our own political group and how much we dislike the other political group. They know that most of the time people say they feel pretty negative about politicians from the other party. But they wondered if that negative feeling was a deep gut-level reaction or more of a thought process. So, affective polarization in simple terms is about how much we see people from opposing political parties as a disliked group. Think about how people feel about members of their own party versus those from the other party. Recent research shows that in the US, people often have stronger feelings about politicians from the parties than about regular voters. So, when someone says they dislike the opposing party, they're usually thinking about the politicians, but the big question for these researchers was how do we really feel? Some scientists describe these feelings as just liking or disliking, while others use much stronger words like loathes or hate to describe the negative feelings towards the other side. This raises a really interesting question. Are these strong negative feelings just how we think we should feel? Or are they more like raw gut feelings that happen automatically in our nervous system? There is a theory called the Hot Cognition Hypothesis. It suggests that when we've already formed an opinion about a politician or a political idea, that object gets an affective tag in our memory. So just seeing a picture of, say, a politician you already dislike can automatically bring up those negative feelings, even before you've had time to really think about it. It is like a quick, almost automatic emotional response. This is like a boat with a powerful engine, where the engine, our automatic feelings, is steering the boat. And our conscious thinking is just the wake behind it. If this is how it works, then these feelings might be hard to change or control consciously. On the other hand, if our political feelings are more about conscious thinking and forming opinions, then even if they are influenced by gut feelings, they are also shaped by deeper considerations like our personal values. And that means we might be able to change or control these feelings more easily. The problem is, most studies on this just ask people how they feel using surveys. This makes it hard to tell if those feelings are from automatic gut reactions or from deliberate thought. To tackle this, the researchers designed a really cool experiment. They brought people into a lab and showed them pictures of different US politicians. While they were looking at these pictures, they measured two things: what people reported feeling and what their bodies were doing. They measured what they call visceral affect, using physiological signals. Visceral affect is basically those automatic physical gut feelings from our nervous system. They looked at two parts of this: arousal and valence. Arousal is like how your body gets activated, your energy level. They measured this using skin conductance, which is basically how much you sweat. The more you sweat, the more your body is reacting. Valence is about whether the feeling is good or bad. They measured this by looking at muscles in the face that usually move when we feel negative emotions, like frowning muscles. They also used a self-report scale where participants rated how they felt about each politician from negative to positive. After looking at a blank screen for a bit to get a baseline, people saw a picture of a politician for 12 seconds. Then they were asked if they knew who it was. After that, they rated how they felt about that person on a scale. They actually saw 10 politicians in total, a mix of Republicans and Democrats, including some very well-known figures like Donald Trump, Barack Obama, and Hillary Clinton. The researchers chose to use static images as a sort of minimal cue to politicians. This was to create a strict test for the hot cognition idea. If simply seeing a picture of an out-party politician automatically triggers strong gut feelings, then even this simple cue should show a reaction. So, what did they find first? Hypothesis 1 tested if seeing out-party politicians would make people feel more negative. And guess what? Participants did report feeling more negatively about out-party politicians compared to in-party politicians. For example, they rated them about 0.64 standard deviations more negatively. This is a pretty big difference and confirms what we often see in political science. People tend to dislike politicians from the other party. Hypothesis 2 explored if this negative feeling towards the other party was stronger for people who identified more strongly with their own party. And here's where things get interesting. While people reported feeling even more negatively about out-party politicians as their own party identification got stronger, their physical responses, their skin conductance, and facial muscle activity didn't show a clear pattern. The physical signals didn't get stronger or weaker based on how strongly people identified with their own party when they saw an out-party politician. Hypothesis 3 looked at whether people's feelings were stronger if they actually recognized the politician. And again, while self-reported feelings were stronger when people knew who the politician was, the physiological responses didn't really change, whether they recognized the politician or not. Their physical arousal and facial muscle movements didn't consistently show a difference related to party affiliation. Hypothesis 4 combined these ideas. Would people who recognize an out-party politician and are strong partisans feel the most negative? Again, the self-reported feelings showed this pattern when people recognize the politician. Strong partisans reported feeling more negatively towards out-party politicians they knew than weaker partisans did. However, the physiological measures, the body's reactions, just didn't show this consistent amplified response. This is a crucial point. Throughout these tests, the researchers found a big disconnect between what people said they felt and what their bodies were physically showing. The self-reports clearly showed negative feelings towards out-party politicians, and this got stronger with their own party identification and when they recognized the politician. But the physiological measures, which are supposed to capture those automatic visceral gut feelings, largely showed nothing. They couldn't reliably detect a physical difference between seeing an in-party politician and an out-party politician. So what does this all mean? The researchers conclude that affective polarization, at least in this context of minimal exposure to politicians through static images, can exist without clear physiological gut feelings. Their findings are more consistent with the idea that our political feelings are shaped by deliberate cognitive appraisals or by retrieving stored attitudes like recalling a stored opinion about a politician, rather than solely by automatic hot cognition visceral reactions. It is like our minds have already made up a judgment, and we're just reporting that judgment without our bodies screaming out a strong, immediate gut reaction. Now, it is important to say what this study doesn't prove. The researchers are very careful to point out that this doesn't mean visceral feelings never play a role in affective polarization. Their experiment used static images. What if people are exposed to more provocative things, like videos of politicians arguing or stories about scandals? In those more intense situations, visceral reactions might indeed pop up. Imagine seeing something truly shocking or morally wrong. Your body would likely react strongly. The study also couldn't tell if people were consciously suppressing or down-regulating their visceral reactions. It is possible that people do have a physical reaction, but then quickly tamp it down. Think about it this way. You see a picture of a politician you strongly dislike, you might report feeling negative about them easily, but does your heart race immediately? Do you break out in a sweat just from seeing the picture? According to this study, probably not. It suggests that the strong negative feeling you report is more of a recall judgment or a thought-out opinion, rather than an immediate, involuntary physical jolt. It is like knowing that stealing is wrong. You don't need to feel a physical disgust reaction every time. You have a stored moral judgment. So what here is pretty significant. It challenges the idea that our political disagreements are always driven by primal, visceral emotions. Instead, it suggests that much of what we call affective polarization might be more of an attitude, a pre-existing evaluation that we can easily access and report. This doesn't mean those attitudes aren't emotionally charged, but the nature of that emotion might be less hot and more cool or deliberated than some theories suggest. It implies that these attitudes or appraisals are more open to conscious processing and potentially change compared to raw, unbidden gut reactions. The researchers also mentioned that while their sample was diverse in some ways, it was predominantly liberal and younger. So it is possible that other groups might have different physiological responses. Future studies could explore more diverse populations and more dynamic, emotionally charged stimuli to see if those conditions trigger stronger visceral responses. They also propose exploring how people might actively regulate their emotions, which could explain why self-reports and physical responses don't always match up. Ultimately, this research gives us a fascinating glimpse into the complex nature of our political feelings. It suggests that when it comes to disliking the other side, it might be more about what we think and what we've learned, rather than what our bodies are involuntarily telling us in the moment. It is a reminder that understanding our emotions is key to understanding our political behavior. What do you think about these findings? Does this align with how you feel about politics? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this helpful, please give this video a thumbs up. Share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more incredible insights into the human mind. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.